The quietude of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant was interrupted by disturbing visions that plagued Master Dooku's mind. Night after night, he saw his former apprentice, Qui-Gon Jinn, falling beneath the blade of a red-skinned Sith warrior with yellow eyes. The images were too vivid to be ignored, filled with details that only the Force could reveal. Dooku meditated incessantly, seeking to understand the meaning of those visions. But the more he searched for answers, the clearer it became that Qui-Gon's fate was in imminent danger. The connection between master and apprentice remained strong, even after all those years, and Dooku would not allow his most promising disciple to meet such a tragic end. He knew he needed to act, and act quickly, before the visions became reality. When news arrived about the mission on Naboo, Dooku felt a chill run down his spine. It was exactly the scenario he had seen in his visions, the green and peaceful planet that would become the stage for a deadly confrontation. Without hesitation, the old master requisitioned a ship and immediately departed for Naboo, leaving behind the confused questions of the Jedi Council. During the journey, he reviewed every detail of the visions, every movement of the combat that had not yet happened, mentally preparing himself for what was to come. Dooku knew that his intervention could alter the course of events in unpredictable ways, but the risk of losing Qui-Gon was unacceptable. He had trained that man, shaped his abilities with the Force, and would not let it all end at the hands of an agent of the dark side. Upon arriving on Naboo, Dooku found Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan about to embark on their mission at the royal palace. The expression of surprise on his former apprentice's face was evident when he saw his master appear unexpectedly. Dooku walked toward them with firm and determined steps, his imposing presence making even the surrounding guards recoil slightly. He looked directly into Qui-Gon's eyes and said with a voice that admitted no objection that he had visions about a Sith who awaited them, and that it would be he who would face this threat. Qui-Gon tried to argue, insisting that it was his mission and that he would not let his master run into danger alone. But Dooku remained inflexible. The discussion between master and apprentice extended for several minutes, with Obi-Wan watching in silence, clearly uncomfortable with the tension in the air. Qui-Gon crossed his arms and questioned Dooku's decision, arguing that his lightsaber skills were more than sufficient to deal with any Sith threat. Dooku responded with calm, but firmness, explaining that the visions showed not only the combat, but also the result, and that he could not risk losing his most talented apprentice out of pride or stubbornness. He placed a hand on Qui-Gon's shoulder and spoke about the importance of trusting the wisdom that comes with experience, even when it means retreating from a battle. Obi-Wan finally intervened, suggesting that perhaps they should listen to Master Dooku. After all, visions from the Force were not something to be taken lightly. After a long moment of silence, Qui-Gon finally nodded, agreeing to let his master face the Sith alone, although reluctance was clear in every fiber of his being. He made Dooku promise that he would return safe and sound, a request that the old master accepted with a solemn nod. With Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan retreating to protect Queen Amidala and complete their diplomatic mission, Dooku entered alone the corridors of the Theed Palace. His steps echoed in the empty passages as he headed toward the generator hangar, exactly where his visions indicated the confrontation would occur. The Force pulsed around him, warning him about the dark presence that awaited in the shadows. When he finally reached the designated location, Dooku saw the figure that had haunted his visions, the Zabrak with red skin and black tattoos who wielded a double-bladed crimson lightsaber. Darth Maul smiled maliciously upon seeing the Jedi Master, clearly surprised by the change of opponent, but no less confident in his victory. Dooku ignited his blue lightsaber and assumed his classic Makashi stance, preparing for the battle that would define his apprentice's fate. The initial dialogue between Dooku and Maul was brief, with the Sith declaring that a Jedi would fall that night, to which Dooku calmly responded that it would not be any of his apprentices. Maul laughed, mocking Jedi arrogance, but Dooku remained impassive, his eyes fixed on his opponent while calculating every possible move. Tension grew in the air like a storm about to break, and both warriors knew that only one would leave that confrontation alive. Dooku asked if the Sith had any last words before they began, to which Maul only growled that he would let his actions speak for him. With a sudden movement, the Zabrak attacked, his blade spinning in a whirlwind of red energy. and the duel that would define the course of the galaxy began in the depths of the Naboo Palace. The combat between Dooku and Darth Maul was intense from the first seconds, with the Zobrik's acrobatic and aggressive style colliding against the refined elegance and calculated nature of Dooku's Makashi. The light blades cut through the air with sharp hisses, creating patterns of blue and red light that danced on the metallic walls of the hangar. Maul invested with all his fury, spinning his double-bladed saber with impressive speed. But Dooku moved with economical precision, deflecting and blocking each attack with minimal, yet perfectly executed movements. The veteran Jedi Master knew he could not compete with his opponent's youth and vigor in terms of brute strength, so he used his experience and superior technique to compensate. Each thrust from Dooku was directed at vital points, forcing Maul to defend constantly. But the Sith was incredibly agile, dodging and counterattacking with renewed ferocity. The battle extended through the corridors, both warriors seeking any advantage they could obtain. After long minutes of exhausting combat, Dooku finally found an opening when Maul executed an overly ambitious jump. The Jedi Master anticipated the movement, spinning his body and delivering a precise blow that struck one of the blades of Maul's double saber, damaging the crystal and causing that side of the weapon to fail. With only one functional blade, the balance shifted drastically, and Maul realized he was at a disadvantage. Dooku pressed his attack, his strikes becoming bolder now that he had a clear advantage. The Zobrik tried to use the Force to push Dooku away, but the Jedi Master was prepared, resisting the push and responding with a Force wave of his own that unbalanced Maul. With a final and decisive movement, Dooku completely disarmed his opponent, using the Force to rip the saber from Maul's hands and throw it away. The Sith fell to his knees, exhausted and defeated, while Dooku pointed his blue blade at the fallen enemy's neck and with a blow to his head, left the Sith unconscious. He deactivated his saber and, to contain Maul, completely immobilized him before contacting his servants, through his communicator, to send a transport ship. Dooku decided to take the prisoner to Sereno, his ancestral property, where he could interrogate him far from the curious eyes of the Jedi Council. He knew this decision would raise questions, but something told him that the answers he sought would not be found through the Order's traditional methods. During the journey to Sereno, Maul remained silent, his yellow eyes fixed on Dooku with a mixture of hatred and curiosity. The Jedi Master could feel the darkness emanating from the Zobrik like heat waves, but he also sensed something more, a fierce loyalty to someone or something that Maul jealously guarded. Once on Sereno, Dooku confined Maul in a secure cell on the lower levels of his castle. The first interrogation sessions were fruitless, with the Sith absolutely refusing to reveal any information about his master or his orders. Dooku repeatedly asked why Maul was on Naboo and why he specifically targeted Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, but the Zobrik only smiled maliciously and remained silent. However, as days turned into weeks, something began to change. Maul perceived that Dooku was not like the other Jedi. There was a restlessness in him, a growing doubt about the Order he served. The Sith began to speak, not about his master, but about the dark side itself, about the power it offered and the limitations the Jedi imposed on themselves. Dooku listened with growing interest, although he maintained a cautious distance, his own disillusionment with the Jedi Council making him more receptive than he should be. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, Qui-Gon Jinn struggled to convince the Council to train Anakin Skywalker. Master Yoda and Master Windu expressed their concerns about the boy's age and the fear they detected in him, eventually deciding that Anakin would not be trained. Qui-Gon, however, did not accept the decision passively. He argued vehemently, citing the prophecy of the Chosen One and insisting that leaving Anakin without training would be more dangerous than training him properly. After weeks of deliberation and with the tacit support of some council members, Qui-Gon finally obtained permission to take Anakin as his Padawan, although with severe caveats and constant supervision. Obi-Wan, who expected to be elevated to Jedi Knight, accepted the situation with maturity, understanding Anakin's importance to his master. Young Skywalker began his training, showing exceptional abilities that confirmed Qui-Gon's suspicions about his potential. Qui-Gon began making frequent visits to Sereno to see his former master Dooku, bringing Anakin with him on many of these occasions. The boy was fascinated by the elegant and wise Count, seeing him as a grandfather figure he had never had. Dooku, in turn, was intrigued by the young Padawan, feeling the immense power of the Force that flowed through him. In the conversations they had during these visits, Dooku shared stories and lessons with Anakin, complementing the training that Qui-Gon provided. However, Qui-Gon never knew about Maul imprisoned on the lower levels of the castle, as Dooku kept this information carefully hidden. As months passed, the conversations between Dooku and Maul deepened, with the Sith gradually revealing more about the philosophy of the dark side, about how passion and emotion could be sources of strength instead of weakness. Dooku found himself increasingly divided, his frustrations with the rigidity and politics of the Jedi Order growing, while Maul's words echoed in his mind. Eventually, after months of contemplation and internal conflict, Dooku made the decision that would change everything. He officially left the Jedi Order, renouncing his position and declaring that he would follow his own path. The news of Dooku's departure from the Order shocked the Jedi Council, but was not entirely unexpected for those who knew him well. Qui-Gon was deeply disturbed by his master's decision, visiting him on Sereno to try to understand his motives. Dooku explained his frustrations with the corrupt Republic and the complacency of the Jedi Order, but did not mention his conversations with Maul or his growing fascination with the dark side. After Qui-Gon's departure, Maul, who had gradually gained Dooku's trust through their philosophical conversations, finally made a proposal. He said there was someone Dooku needed to meet, someone who shared his visions about the galaxy and who could offer the power necessary to make real changes. Initially skeptical, Dooku agreed to hear more, and Maul arranged a secret meeting with his master, Darth Sidious. The meeting took place at a neutral location, far from curious eyes, and for the first time Dooku found himself face to face with the Sith Lord who had orchestrated so many events in the shadows. Palpatine, still hiding his true identity as a senator, presented himself with eloquence and charisma, speaking about the Sith plans to bring order to the galaxy and eliminate the corruption that infested the Republic. Dooku spent weeks deliberating on Sidious's proposal, carefully weighing the pros and cons of joining the Sith. On one hand, everything he had learned as a Jedi told him that the dark side was a path to destruction, but on the other, he clearly saw the flaws of the Order and the Republic they claimed to protect. Sidious was patient, not pressuring Dooku, but rather providing him with information and perspectives that challenged everything the former Jedi Master believed. Finally, convinced that only through Sith power could he achieve his goals of reforming the galaxy, Dooku accepted to become Sidious's apprentice, assuming the name Darth Tyrannis. Maul, having fulfilled his purpose of bringing Dooku to the dark side, was released from his confinement, but not before receiving clear instructions from Sidious about his new role in the Sith Order that was being built. Dooku plunged into the Sith teachings with the same dedication he had previously applied to the Jedi ways, his power growing rapidly as he fully embraced the dark side of the Force. Years passed and Anakin grew under Qui-Gon's tutelage, developing into an exceptional Padawan whose abilities with the Force and lightsaber far surpassed those of his peers. When the Clone Wars erupted, Anakin was already a young adult, ready to be tested in the fire of real battle. During the Battle of Geonosis, which marked the official beginning of the conflict, Anakin's ship suffered serious damage while he and Qui-Gon were on a separate reconnaissance mission. The navigation systems failed completely, and the ship, following emergency protocols, made a forced landing on the nearest planet, which happened to be Sereno. Anakin managed to land the damaged ship on the grounds of Dooku's castle, not knowing that this was the home of the Separatist leader. When Dooku emerged to investigate the crashed ship, he was surprised to find the young Padawan he had met years before, now grown and clearly a formidable warrior. Despite his loyalty to the Separatists, Dooku could not simply kill the young man he held in such high esteem, deciding instead to use this opportunity differently. Dooku invited Anakin inside his castle while the ship was being repaired, a hospitality the young Jedi cautiously accepted. During the conversations that followed, Dooku began subtly to plant seeds of doubt in Anakin's mind, questioning the Jedi Council's decisions and the very nature of the Force. He did not reveal his Sith identity, presenting his ideas as philosophical discoveries and advanced techniques he had developed independently. Anakin, always eager to become more powerful and frustrated with what he perceived as condescending treatment from the Council, listened with growing interest. Dooku spoke about how the Jedi artificially limited themselves by rejecting emotions and passions, when in fact these things could be channeled and controlled to greatly amplify someone's power in the Force. He offered to teach Anakin these advanced techniques, not as a betrayal of the Jedi Order, but as an expansion of his knowledge and abilities. Anakin hesitated, knowing he should refuse, but the prospect of unlimited power and the opportunity to become strong enough to protect those he loved was too tempting to ignore. During the days that followed while the ship was being repaired, Anakin secretly trained with Dooku, learning techniques that combined both the light side and the dark side of the Force. Dooku was careful in his approach, presenting these teachings as a superior and more balanced way to use the Force, never explicitly mentioning the Sith or the dark side by name. Anakin absorbed the knowledge like a sponge, his abilities growing exponentially in an incredibly short period. He learned to channel his emotions without being dominated by them, to use his passion and love as sources of power instead of weaknesses to be suppressed. Dooku was impressed by how quickly Anakin mastered techniques that took years for most practitioners to learn. When the time finally came for Anakin to leave, his ship completely repaired, Dooku made him promise to keep his teachings secret, at least for now, suggesting that the Council would not understand and might react negatively. Anakin agreed, thanking Dooku for the teachings and departing with a significantly expanded arsenal of Force abilities. In the battles that followed during the Clone Wars, Anakin distinguished himself extraordinarily, his new abilities making him practically invincible on the battlefield. Ironically, he frequently found himself combating forces led by Dooku, although he never faced the Count directly. Dooku observed from afar, noting how Anakin applied the teachings he had received, mastering both the light side and the dark side of the Force with a mastery he had never seen before. The young Jedi was becoming exactly what the prophecy predicted, a being of balance, capable of using all aspects of the Force without being corrupted by any of them. Concerned about the implications of having trained Anakin, Dooku finally contacted Sidious and confessed what he had done. To his surprise, Palpatine showed no anger. Instead, he smiled and said that Dooku had done exactly what he should, for he had prepared Anakin to become the perfect apprentice at the right time. Sidious was already planning to replace Dooku with Anakin eventually, and now the young Jedi was being perfectly molded for that role, although he didn't know it yet. As the Clone Wars progressed, Anakin Skywalker became a living legend among the Jedi and the Republic forces. His exploits on the battlefield were sung throughout the galaxy, and even the most experienced masters of the Council recognized that he had reached a level of mastery in the Force that few in the Order's history had attained. The unique balance that Anakin maintained between all aspects of the Force, thanks to Dooku's secret teachings combined with Qui-Gon's traditional Jedi training, resulted in abilities that defied all conventional logic. He could anticipate opponents' movements with supernatural precision, manipulate the Force in ways others considered impossible, and his lightsaber combat was simply sublime, a perfect dance of power and technique. Master Yoda observed Anakin's progress with a mixture of admiration and concern, sensing that there was something different about the young knight, but unable to identify exactly what. Master Windu, always pragmatic, argued that it didn't matter how Anakin had achieved his power. What mattered was that he was using it to defend the Republic and the Jedi Order. In an unprecedented move that shocked the entire Order, the Jedi Council voted unanimously to promote Anakin Skywalker directly to the rank of Jedi Master and grant him a seat on the Council. The decision was made not only because of his exceptional abilities, but also because of the crucial role he played in the Clone Wars and the leadership he demonstrated among the younger knights. Master Yoda presided over the elevation ceremony, declaring that powerful Anakin had become, perhaps the most powerful Jedi who had ever existed. Qui-Gon, present at the ceremony, could not be more proud of his former Padawan, seeing in him the realization of everything he had always believed the Chosen One could be. Obi-Wan, who maintained a close relationship with Anakin despite not having been his master, embraced him warmly, expressing his joy at his friend's success. Anakin, now seated among the Order's most venerable members, felt a deep satisfaction, but also an overwhelming responsibility, and the secrets he kept about his additional training weighed on his conscience. During this period, Chancellor Palpatine had become increasingly close to Anakin, regularly seeking his company for discussions about military strategy and galactic politics. Anakin appreciated the attention and respect the Chancellor showed him, especially because it contrasted with what he sometimes perceived as veiled distrust from some council members. Palpatine was skillful in feeding Anakin's insecurities, praising his achievements while subtly suggesting that the Jedi Order did not fully appreciate him. However, Anakin was different this time, more centered, more aware. When nightmares about Padme began, the senator from Naboo whom he had secretly married, Anakin did not panic as he might have done before. Instead, he applied the techniques Dooku had taught him, using his emotions as tools instead of being controlled by them. He deepened his abilities in the Force, discovering he could do much more than he had ever imagined possible, including the ability to superficially read the thoughts of people around him. This new ability of mental perception proved to be both a blessing and a curse. Anakin discovered he could sense the emotions and even capture superficial thoughts of most people, although Master Yoda's mind remained completely closed to him, protected by centuries of training and mastery in the Force. He used this ability in sometimes frivolous ways, playing elaborate pranks on Padme by anticipating her reactions before she expressed them, leading to moments of lightness and laughter in their secret relationship. Padme was frustrated and amused at the same time, accusing him of cheating when he seemed to know exactly what she was going to say or do. However, it was during a routine meeting with Chancellor Palpatine that this ability revealed something that would change everything. Anakin, who always kept his mental defenses active during official conversations, let his perception extend subtly toward Palpatine's mind, something he had never done before out of respect. What he found there left him completely frozen: darkness. A deep and ancient darkness that pulsed with Sith power, and behind the kind words and friendly smiles, there was a calculating mind plotting the complete destruction of the Jedi Order. Anakin carefully controlled his reaction, not letting it show in his expression or body language that he had discovered Palpatine's terrible secret. He continued the conversation normally, answering the Chancellor's questions while his mind worked frantically to process this devastating revelation. When he finally left Palpatine's office, Anakin knew he could not simply go to the Council with accusations. He needed concrete proof, or at least an absolute confirmation of what he had detected. In the following days, he observed Palpatine more carefully, using his expanded abilities in the Force to map the patterns of darkness that emanated from the Chancellor. The more he observed, the more certain he became Palpatine was Darth Sidious, the Sith Lord who had orchestrated the Clone Wars from the beginning. Armed with this knowledge and with the unique power he possessed thanks to his training with Dooku, Anakin began to formulate a plan. He would not confront Sidious with other Jedi by his side, as the Sith could escape or cause massive destruction in that process. Instead, Anakin would decide to face him alone, trusting in his superior abilities to defeat the Sith Lord. The confrontation took place in the Chancellor's office, late at night, when Anakin requested an urgent private meeting. Palpatine received him with his characteristic smile, but that smile disappeared when Anakin ignited his lightsaber and declared that he knew exactly who and what the Chancellor really was. Sidious did not try to deny it. Instead, he applauded slowly and congratulated Anakin on his perspicacity, openly admitting his Sith identity. He tried to persuade Anakin to join him, promising power to save Padme from whatever fate awaited her, but Anakin remained firm. The young Jedi calmly explained that he already possessed the necessary power that came from the perfect balance between light and darkness, not from total submission to the dark side. The battle that followed was titanic, with Sidious unleashing his entire arsenal of Sith power's Force lightning, waves of pure energy, and saber combat techniques that had defeated countless Jedi throughout the centuries. But Anakin was ready. Using both Jedi techniques and the teachings Dooku had given him, he defended himself and counterattacked with devastating efficiency. The combat destroyed much of the office, but in the end, it was Anakin who remained standing, his lightsaber pointed at the defeated Sith. He did not kill him, instead he captured Sidious alive. The revelation that the Chancellor was a Sith Lord shook the Republic to its foundations, but it also brought an abrupt end to the Clone Wars when the true nature of the conflict was exposed. Anakin was hailed as the hero who had saved the galaxy, the chosen one who brought balance to the Force by destroying the Sith. With Sidious captured and subsequently tried, and Dooku voluntarily surrendering after the fall of his master, the Sith threat was finally eliminated. In the tranquility that followed, Anakin finally revealed to the Council his relationship with Padme, expecting expulsion or at least severe censure. To his surprise, Master Yoda simply nodded and said he had always known, but had chosen to observe and see what path Anakin would take. The young Jedi Master then proposed fundamental changes in the Order, arguing that the prohibition of attachments had almost led to the galaxy's downfall by making the Jedi alienated and unable to fully understand human nature. He suggested that the Order should embrace a more complete understanding of the Force, recognizing that emotion and passion were not enemies, but natural aspects of life that could be balanced with reason and discipline. His proposals were intensely debated, but eventually, with the support of Qui-Gon and even Yoda, changes began to be implemented. Years later, when Anakin eventually became Grand Master, these reforms deepened, transforming the Jedi Order into something new, an organization that honored both the light and understood the darkness, capable of maintaining true balance in the Force for the first time in millennia.